Mario has definitely been around the block for quite some time. He first appeared as Jumpman in the hit video game Donkey Kong way back in 1981, but wouldn't be until 4 years later where Jumpman would become a worldwide sensation known as the Red Plumber we know and love today, Mario. Mario debuted in his own game that was only the start of his launch to superstar video game stardom in Super Mario Bros. On September 13th, 1985. 40 years ago. Good lord, it's been that long? I remember I first played Super Mario Bros. Back when I was in grade school with my siblings and my dad, and I remember this was the first video game I ever beat. How has it been this long already? Jeez Louise! This video game right here has inspired generations. A feat not every video game can claim to have accomplished. The only other video games I can think of that have accomplished this are Donkey Kong, Pac-Man, and Tetris. Heck, it's even so iconic that my parents, who, mind you, aren't gamers like I am, ended up playing this game a lot on the old arcade machines back in the 80s. I guess we could call them the OG gamers. With Mario's 40th anniversary blossoming before us, I decided to go back and replay his debut game way back in 1985. Has the game aged well? Is it still enjoyable? Or is it an overhyped cabinet doomed to be remembered as just Mario's first game? Well, let's find out. Now, back in the 80s, stories weren't a huge priority for Nintendo, and that hasn't changed all too much. It's still not a huge priority. However, for Super Mario Bros., it was effective, and you got a hint from Toad at the end of each castle that their princess is in our castle, and we gotta go rescue the princess from the big bad fire-breathing dinosaur turtle himself, Bowser. You start the game and run through a level, jumping on Goombas and Koopa Troopas, dodging pitfalls, discovering the iconic mushroom, fire flower, and superstar power-ups, and attempting to jump onto a flagpole at the end of the level to progress onto the next. Did anyone else try to jump over this flagpole when they were younger? I gotta know if that was just me and my siblings. I doubt that it was just us, but I still gotta know. Anyway, you jump onto the flagpole and then get off it and go into the tower off to the right, and boom! You're done with the level. There's no cutscenes that drags out the start of the game. You just get right into it. This was the 80s. You play the game to play the game, not listen to some story about some damsel in distress needing a big handsome man to protect her from an overgrown swamp turtle. It's kind of weird and fascinating that Miyamoto came up with this off the top of his head in the 80s. It's even stranger to think that the internet wasn't even around during this time. It's just wacky how they came up with some of this stuff. Also, real quick, it's just amazing how Nintendo explained all of this without one singular line of dialogue. Man, Nintendo was a different beast back then. Starting from the very moment you enter this game and play its first level, this game's absolutely genius level design is coming into effect here. The game is just so amazing at teaching you how to play the game, especially in World 1, where you have the basic levels like a plains area, or at least I assume that's a plains, underground, mushroom top, trees, things, and last but certainly not least, the castle with Bowser serving as each world's mini boss fight that you gotta get through. I just love how Super Mario Bros. Is straight to the point. No messing around, just play the dang game. There's not much else to these levels. Just run through these obstacle courses of death and hope to gosh you don't overreact and jump onto a piranha plant and become its next meal. I definitely didn't do that a couple times. Yeah. Or accidentally jump into the pit. I definitely did that last one quite a few times, I will say that. Even after all these years passed, there are definitely gonna be some levels that you are going to struggle with and you are going to die. Especially on your first playthrough. Despite how easy this game looks, I mean, it's literally just running and jumping. This game is deceitful to an insane level. It will go hardcore and throw a lot at you as you move on throughout the game, which we'll get into later on. Enjoy the easier parts of the game while you still can, because it's not gonna last very long. One thing I did forget to mention is that 1-2 is where the beginning of the secrets come into play. If you have either the mushroom or fire flower power up, you also have the ability to bash blocks and get closer to the ceiling of the level. You can run across the ceiling, past the warp pipe you would normally use to get out of the level, and find this little alcove area called a warp zone. These warp zones are insanely helpful. You can use the warp zone in 1-2 to warp as far as World 4, which is just nuts. In 4-2, there are 2 warp zones. One in the middle of the level that most people normally miss, and one at the end of the level. The one at the end will only warp you to World 5, whilst the one in the middle will warp you all the way to the final world, World 8, which is just bonkers. I also found out about the middle warp zone area in 4-2 when I was older, thanks to the internet. Yeah, I know, I cheated. I'm not really proud of that one either. While there aren't many secrets in this game like there are in other video games, they were still really cool and fun to find when you found them and you didn't have to use the internet. I can imagine what it was like back then. They didn't have the internet, you just had to run around. Now, one thing that did surprise me looking back on this game was that for a game that was made back in the 80s and did not have the technology that we have today, this game looked good. However, on the green earth that we live on, that Nintendo made Super Mario Bros. Look this amazing for a 1985 game is beyond me. But they made this one look pretty dang amazing. These areas for a game made in the 80s are really creative, with underground levels, underwater levels, levels in the dark, green mushroom-shaped trees, red mushroom-shaped trees, normal plains, and my all-time favorite, the castles. These castles are easily the best looking and feeling areas in the entire game. This castle signifies that you're one step away from being the world that you're currently in before you can go on to the next. Everything in this castle makes you feel like you should not be there. Like the giant rings of fire and pitfalls littering the place, the enemies guarding said castle, and worst of all, the Koopa King himself. Getting past Bowser, King of the Koopa Clan, is the biggest obstacle in the castles. And boy, does this music make you realize that post-haste. Beating Bowser is always satisfying to me, no matter how many times I play this game. But I will admit, constantly seeing that strand of text that says, "Thank you, Mario, but our princess is in another castle!" Ooh, that was so annoying. Another thing that majorly stands out to me personally is the freaking music! The all-time world champion GOAT, greatest of all time, Koji Kondo, strikes again! Or, I mean, for the first time, but whatever. This man, I swear, he's a freaking musical genius! Everything sounds so amazing even 40 years later. This man music ages like fine wine, I swear to goodness. This music constantly lives in my head rent-free. I will occasionally catch myself humming to myself when I'm just chilling or even when I'm working. Especially that dang castle theme. It's my favorite in the game, hands down. This music has evolved insanely well over time. It's actually pretty insane to think that this music is now 40 years old. That's just crazy. This music gives you vibes of listening to chiptunes, which is a vibe that I welcome day and night because these tunes are absolutely iconic and they hold an insane nostalgia value. They have arguably become some of the most recognizable soundtracks in the gaming sphere altogether. Now, one thing I will say is that this game, as amazing and fun as it is, it's not perfect. Then again, no video game is. But this game, like every other game out there, has its fair share of flaws. Now keep in mind, these are purely me problems. I'm pretty sure this isn't a problem for everybody else. The first one being the difficulty spike that could potentially rival Donkey Kong Country 2's difficulty spike, especially when you end up losing a power-up. When you lose a power-up, you don't shrink back to Mushroom Mario. You shrink back to itty-bitty tiny Mario. This is only if you have the Fire Flower power-up, by the way. Why did I skip the Mushroom Mario phase? Well, the answer is pretty simple. This game was made in the 80s, and it was designed to be an arcade game, which in my part of the town, we call arcade game coin suckers. They will sap out your money, and this will be a subtle way of sapping out more money out of you because you die quicker. But then again, that's just my personal theory, and it's not really a huge complaint because it's not that bad, but it can get bad at times, especially in World 7 and 8 when things get more frantic. Sometimes this game just feels a little bit, dare I say, unfair in terms of difficulty. Like I mentioned before, in World 7 and 8, they get more frantic. Which, again, I completely understand they are meant to be hard because they're the last two worlds in the game. But man, 8-3 almost completely broke me. Especially these little dudes. Those freaking Hammer Brothers. They haunt my nightmares to this day. This game's RNG, random number generator for those who don't know what that means, is just absolutely brutal sometimes, especially here. It takes the line between difficult and unfair and uses it like a gosh dang jump rope. This game has no shame in terms of that dang difficulty spike in certain parts, and I'm just gonna say it, I love it. It makes the game harder and it makes me more determined to beat it. Another thing that ever so slightly bothered me was the fact that you could easily lose the power-ups if you're not careful. At times in the game, it feels like there is no room to breathe, especially in levels like Lakitu's levels, the Hammer Bros, even Flying Fish. Especially those levels, those things are terrifying. But the thing that makes this worse is the fact that there are 0 checkpoints in World 8. In the other worlds, there are checkpoints, but you never know when you hit them. They're just not there visibly, but you know you crossed them if you die and you respawn already halfway through the level. But in World 8, that luxury is gone, with absolutely 0 warning. So when I died in 8-2, I was in for quite the shock when I didn't respawn halfway through the level and I respawned at the very beginning. I didn't even realize that was a thing until that ended up happening. One other small itty-bitty little baby complaint I had was that this game's castles could be absolutely freaking brutal. The one that grated my nerves the most were World 7 and 8's castles. Again, fair. They're the last castles in the game, of course they're gonna be hard. But man, it got to a point where it felt like the game was dangling a carrot in front of me and driving away with it in a pickup truck. Now, I never had a problem with mazes before, but 7-4 took the little patience I had for mazes and made me grind my teeth. I was stuck in that place for longer than I would have liked. It got so bad that I just had to die at one point and literally start again from the beginning because I ran out of lives. I got it right the next time, but oh my lord, it was complete torture. Don't even get me started on World 8's castle. But oh gosh, I will warn you, it is absolutely freaking brutal. It is brutal to a point that you will absolutely die a couple of times before you get it right. This castle takes no prisoners. I don't want to spoil the chaos for y'all, so I'll leave you all to hopefully experience that for yourselves one day. Best of luck if you decide to do it though. But other than those small complaints that I had, which I'm very positive is just a me thing, I have basically no negative things to say about this game, if anything. Those things I said are kind of a stretch at best, even if I still did get annoyed at some of those things. Other than that, Super Mario Bros. On the NES is truly a classic that has aged very well with the times and still leaves its mark 40 years later. It's just amazing how this game has kept up with other Mario games to a point. It's one of the best decisions Nintendo made, as Mario would help Nintendo keep their popularity in the US. Mario and Luigi, Princess Toadstool, Bowser, Toad, and the rest of the Koopa enemies literally helped Nintendo to mega video game stardom, and they're still going strong today. I don't think that Mario, his bro Luigi, Princess Peach, Bowser, Toad, or anyone else in the Marioverse are going anywhere or gonna be slowing down anytime soon. It's still amazing to think of how far these characters have come from the 80s. Here's hoping to many more enjoyable years of Mario games. Happy birthday, Mario. Hello everyone who got to the end. Thank you so much for watching this video. And also, happy 40th anniversary, Mario, you gaming legend. Also, huge thank you to everyone who made this video possible. And also, another huge thank you to, well, you guys for watching. Anyway, I can't wait to see you guys in the next video. Take care, guys. Bye!